Hey, welcome to another video in the How Astrology Works series. I'm trying to make this video so that I can go to bed. I cleaned up my living room just to make this video, and I want to just get it out of the way so that I can go to bed and not have to worry about keeping my living room clean. This is the second telephone video where I'm trying to give a visual representation of Earth's orientation to the plane of the Milky Way galaxy. So just like in the first video, I've got the globe set up halfway between the floor and ceiling of my living room, but you might want to watch the other video if you haven't seen it. The big difference between this one and the first one is I've got the inclination of the north-south axis a lot different than it was. You can see this arc going from the north to the South Pole. This shows where the axis is tilted 23 degrees to the plane of the ecliptic, which I know this is confusing. We're introducing a whole lot of other parameters than we normally learn about when we learn about the solar system. We're situating the solar system in the galaxy, so it's a whole new frame here that you're dealing with. So in this video, I've got this metal arc facing up to the ceiling of my living room, representing the upper dome of the Milky Way galaxy. But in the first video I did, this same arc was facing over toward Orion in the western corner of my room. And in the real Milky Way galaxy, when we're facing Orion, we're facing toward the outer part of the Milky Way galaxy. So that's a big difference between this video and the last video. And so it makes, like, I'm going to talk about that right now, we on Earth are underneath the sun. And that's kind of the main reason I want to make this video tonight. I'm kind of celebrating that right now we on Earth are finishing up the bottom part of our sweep underneath the sun in our yearly cycle going up and down around the sun. Here's a quick graphic, and I'll put a link to the astronomy site that has a little GIF using this graphic so you can see the Earth going up and down around the sun in its yearly orbit. Okay, so October 7th is the day when we're lowest. I think of it as a cardinal point, the bottom point when we're in our cycle going up and down around the sun. So you can see the lamp of the sun's light is like, you know, when we're facing Cancer. You always want to think of this metal bar. When anything is facing this metal bar, it's facing the sign Cancer. Something in the Northern Hemisphere is going to see the ecliptic really high. Something in the Southern Hemisphere is going to see the ecliptic really low. So that's what is really would be confusing about this. Is like for us right now to be in this age, 2200 AD, being below the sun, for us, we're having fall, because our tilt, this Cancer part, is actually facing over here right now toward Orion instead of up into the upper dome of the Milky Way. And so when we're facing up toward the sun now, it's actually the fall for us. But I just want to get people used to thinking about the precession of the equinoxes. I think a lot about the precession of the equinoxes and how it makes the sky that we see very different. And I've had this set up like this for about a couple months now, because I'm thinking a lot about like 4500 BC and what different cultures were doing around that time. it's a nice organic way to think about time. If you imagine what the sky looked like for people that were like making coiled pottery in 4500 BC, or I don't know, all the kinds of things, the societies that they had that we see when we dig up archaeological sites. So I guess the other thing that I wanted to talk about is when we're facing down, we're like right now, since we're under the sun, during the daytime when we're facing up, we're facing the sun, and we see Virgo up on the ceiling, and we see Pisces, the fishes, down on the floor. It's always like that, whether we see it during the fall, right now, or 4,500 years ago, whether we're looking down into the bottom dome of the Milky Way galaxy and we see Pisces during what would be our summertime. We're talking about constellations that different seasons might face different constellations depending on different periods in the 26,000 year cycle of the precession of the equinoxes. I guess the other thing that I kind of wanted to get in with this video is imagining the two main belts. So the only constellation that I've got up right now is Orion. That's going to be our kind of orientation. You want to imagine the rest of the constellations of the plane of the Milky Way galaxy as you go around the room. So like right to the right of Orion would be Taurus. And then the next after Taurus, as you go around the room, moving toward the north, would be Perseus. And then after Perseus, a little bit higher up would be the little goat. I can't remember the goat in the cart. Auriga. And then the next one toward the north would be Cassiopeia. And we see normally our North Pole points to Polaris. I've got a little thing here for Polaris, which is right above Cassiopeia. And then we would see to the right of Cassiopeia, Cepheus, which is a little bit high, riding high, right above the equator of the galaxy. And then Cygnus the swan, and then Aquila the eagle, and then over toward the west of the room, we would see Ophiuchus, and then right below Ophiuchus, we would be seeing the constellation Sagittarius, and then next to Ophiuchus, we would see the constellation Scorpio, and then after that, following around the room, we would see the constellation Centaurus, which and our North Pole would be pointing, our South Pole would be pointing just a little bit under the constellation Centaurus, and then over to the right of Centaurus would be Argo Navis, and then Procyon, and then Canis Major, and then we'd be back to Orion. Okay, so that's the belt of the plane of the Milky Way galaxy. And then you want to imagine another belt, and we'll go back to Orion again. And that belt, like we'll start over here, right next to Orion, we would see the constellation Taurus. And then above the constellation Taurus, we would see Gemini. And then above Gemini, we would see Cancer. And then at the top of the ceiling, we'd see Leo. And then next to that, we would see Virgo, which would really be like right above the sun, the lamp. And then we would see Libra. And then we would see Scorpio. And then we would see Sagittarius. And then we would see Capricorn down toward the bottom of the wall, and then Aquarius, and then right under the globe on the floor, we would see Pisces, and then Aries, and then we would be back to Taurus next to Orion. So you've got these two belts that make an X with each other. And then the other thing I wanted to get in was that a big step forward for me in coming to understand the situation of Earth as it's moving around in the solar system, in the Milky Way galaxy. The big step forward for me in understanding that was learning to imagine what's out there when I'm looking at the sky during the day. Like I'm pointing this phone at the globe now and imagining that lamp to be the sun. If I were outside during the day, like tomorrow, and I see the sun in the middle or like toward the end of the sign Libra, I would know as I'm looking up into the sky at the sun that behind that sun is the constellation Virgo. You can't see it. You're blinded by the light of day. And so you can't see what's actually out there in the sky. And that can really confuse, for me, it made it a lot easier to understand where we actually are when I was able to picture what's actually out there that I can't see because of the light of the sun. I think I'm going to stop here. Something doesn't look quite right. We'll see if this is something that we can post or not. Thank you for watching. This is Our Sky Astrology.